Hey then everyone, it's Juan here from SwitchWatch and I'm absolutely delighted to be back with another review. Games have been dropping on the Nintendo eStore like crazy, so we've had to pick a few and get the review out to you guys. Today I'm delighted to be bringing you a game called Vaccine, which was provided to us by Rainy Frog, so thank you very much. Now this game pays homage to one of my absolute all-time favourites, a game that defined the survival horror era, Resident Evil. So the original Resident Evil and Dino Crisis and games of that ilk, they are super special games, and although they're many years old now, if you're paying a homage to games like that, then they need to be of a decent standard. Now if you like this video, please hit that thumbs up button guys, really helps us out, and why not consider subscribing to our channel. We're trying to get to 100 subscribers. We can only do that with your help. And last but not least, leave me a comment down below on this game or any other. I'd love to respond to you. So without further ado, let's get into this one. So who remembers that very first moment when you come up against the zombie in the Resident Evil mansion? Some truly horrifying moments in those days, or in Dino Crisis when those pesky dinosaurs were all over you. These were some fantastic moments in these types of games. So it was with much anticipation that I hoped a Vaccine could at least emulate some of these moments. So when you begin the game, you get to choose from two different characters. One's female, one's male, one's called Rita and the other one is called Manuel. You start off in a room and your friend is shaking viciously, and what you need to do is you need to find a vaccine from the mansion, and this is where your journey or your adventure begins. So let's start with the story. There really isn't much of a story here guys, it's literally your friend is shaking, you need to find a vaccine, and that's kind of it. You will find some journals, you will find some paperwork on your travels through the mansion which will reveal a little more, but it's quite shallow. So let's move on to music and sound. Developer has done a good job here with the sound and the pacing of the music. It really does set a creepy atmosphere. The sound is good and everything just feels right with the sound and music here. They've done a really good job, so I've got no qualms with that. Now let's move on to graphics. There's nothing to write home here about guys. The graphics are, you know, very pixelated. The textures are just not that great, but then again it is based on Resident Evil from the early 1990s, so can't really expect too much here, seeing as it is a homage to that game. Let's swiftly move on to the gameplay. This game has you looking for a vaccine in a randomized mansion, so I think that's really cool actually, and I like the fact that there is a timer because it kind of gives you an incentive to move quickly through the mansion. So there are two things that the developer has done to change it up a little bit. So what it means is each time you die, the rooms will then be in a different order, all of the items will be in a different place, and all of the enemies will be in different places as well, and there will be either different numbers of enemies. Sometimes you'll have loads of zombies, sometimes you'll have more of the really annoying creatures, which I'm going to call the lickers because that's basically what they were based on, I think. And that's where the trouble for me begins. There's nothing wrong with having randomized items, weapons, monsters, but where that brings a problem is when there's no rule set. Because what will happen is sometimes come out of the starting room and you'll always start with a knife, so that's fine, it gives you a weapon at the beginning always, but you might get into the second room and you might find a pistol, and you might get into the third and fourth room and you might get the shotgun, and you might get some bullets, and you might get some health packs and stuff like that, and that sets you on your way really nicely. And then if you do die, then it's basically your fault. You've had everything that you needed, you just failed. However, what I don't like is when you get into the third or fourth room and you come up against a creature like a licker and you're not prepared at all. You don't have any weapons, you don't have any health packs. There's nothing you can do other than run around it, because if you try and kill it with your knife without upgrading your weapon skills, then you've got no choice. You're just going to die. You can't get past it. You can't get any further. You've got to start again. So this game is a roll of the dice, basically. For you to be able to complete a run successfully, you need the items to fall just right for you. And that is a huge frustration, because I had to start the game over, I would say, at least 50 times until I was able to complete a run successfully, because I just didn't have the tools at my disposal. Now, when you do complete the game, what will happen is you'll get the vaccine back to this person and they're still not cured. And you're thinking, well, what's going on here? And the timer will start up again, but instead of 30 minutes, you'll only have 20 minutes to complete the game. Now, the great thing here is that you do get to start with all of the items that you picked up in your previous run, and you'll still have all the statistics where you've upgraded yourself or your character to continue. So run 2 should in theory be a little bit easier, but then that brings me on to item placement. You always need a silver and a gold key to get to the boss, to be able to beat it, to get the vaccine back to the person you need to get it back to. Sometimes you can see the silver key pretty easily, sometimes you can't, and that's because the items flash in the game, but sometimes they don't. And that is so frustrating, because then you get to a gold door or a silver door and you haven't got the key, and then you have to sort of traverse all the way back through every single room that you've just been to, and if the item doesn't flash, you're literally button bashing, just hoping that the character will pick up the required key. Now, on the way to sort of beating the boss, you will be required to beat a small puzzle. Now, this puzzle, I have absolutely no idea what goes on behind it. All I know is that when I try and figure out the puzzle, it always works, and I'm sure you'll be able to figure it out yourselves as well. Once you do that, you then go on to your third run. It's not harder or anything like that. The only thing that changes is the time. And on the third run, you'll have 10 minutes to complete the run. And if you do that successfully, then you will complete the game. However, you will need 3 perfect runs, and if you don't get the items falling the way you need them to fall, you're not going to do it. It's as simple as that. There's nothing more frustrating than dying on the third run and then having to start all over again. It's just super annoying. But what I can say is if you put the time in, if you put the time into this game, you will get your reward. You will complete it. It's just whether you can get over the first couple of hours and get over the sort of initial frustrations. So look, there is some positives here, but there are a lot of negatives. And a lot of the negatives are due to sort of technical faults, really, that shouldn't be there, especially as this game has already been released on the Wii U and other consoles beforehand. These should have been fixed before being put on the Nintendo Switch, especially as the game has already been criticised heavily elsewhere. Now look, if you want a game that's going to bring back the nostalgia of the 90s with the tank controls, I don't care about that, because I'm used to those controls. You may not be, and you may find it really odd, but the good thing is that there is options to change the control scheme, but they will feel clunky to you anyway. They will feel clunky to anybody that plays this game. If you can deal with that, then great. The second thing is that this game will bring you that nostalgia. It will feel like you're playing sort of Resident Evil game, although it's just nowhere near as good. But if you want that survival horror type game, then this might be for you. Moving on to longevity, honestly, once you've completed this, once I completed it, I didn't want to go back to it. For me, it's done, and I think for many people it will be like that. So you have to ask yourself, is the £10 worth 4 or 5 hours of gameplay, especially when it has this level of frustration and technical faults in the game. So it brings me on to my verdict. For me, I had really high expectations purely because I loved those games. Resident Evil have really special place in my heart, and so I wanted this game to be a really cool homage to those games and be a really good survival horror title, even though it is an indie game. Unfortunately, it just doesn't play that well. It's frustrating, and although the developers try to do something different here, which I do commend, I do like the fact that they've tried to randomize it, but without any rule set, it just falls apart for me. And so unfortunately, if you've never played a Resident Evil game before and you're a complete newcomer to this type of game, I can't really recommend it. Unfortunately, I'd love to be more positive about it, but I really just can't recommend it on that basis. However, if you have played Resident Evil before, you know what the tank controls are like, you know that it's going to feel clunky, and you just want that dose of nostalgia, you want to go back to that time, then look, you'll find something here. It will be maybe a little bit of fun for you for a while. But this one from me is a 5 out of 10. So thank you for listening and thank you for watching, and if you like this video, hit that thumbs up button, consider subscribing to our channel, and last but not least, leave me a comment down below so I can respond to you. My name is Juan Romero from SwitchWatch, and I'll see you on the next one.